Okay, so the final rant, if I were to borrow a term from our fellow Star Legend, NewJersey.com, Rutgers rant team, final Rutgers rant of the year for Rutgers football. After a 44-41 loss to Kansas State in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix, don't know what else to say other than we are who we are. There's no changing it. Just like basketball, you don't win games on paper. You win by executing on the court or on the field. We didn't execute particularly on defense. Coach says the program is definitely making strides. Well, maybe the program is, but the team on the field isn't. You are what your record says you are. Another 7-6 year, really disappointing when you compare it to expectations. We've talked about this a million times. The 12-0 story is all right, maybe 11-1, 10-2. Many thought 8-4 was the baseline. You get a bowl win, you're 9-4. But from there, it's just, a short step to 10-3 and a step on the rung of the ladder to take the next step, which we just seem that we're incapable of doing. We're not Indiana, and thank God Indiana's not on the schedule next year, because that would be another loss. In addition to Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa. And if Coach is thinking the program is getting better, you're going to hear it here first. Don't be shocked if there's some surprises. There's no Wagner next year. Don't be shocked if there's some surprises when we play Ohio, the MAC champ at 10-3, 11-2, whatever they are, and Miami of Ohio, who played in the MAC championship game against Ohio. I think they wound up 8-4, 8-5. We didn't execute on defense, especially in the second half. And the offense, after looking like the fastest show on turf in the first half, the second half went back to Rutgers being Rutgers. A lot of the guys who cover the program are throwing roses. Oh, look at this offense. Oh, how good are we going to be next year? Forget about that. I said this in my preview, said this last night. This is how the Big 12 plays. This is who they are. They want to spread them out. They're going to play up-tempo, both in the running and the passing game. That's how they play. This is how this is life in the Big 12. This is what they want to do. This is how you win in the Big 12. Don't get excited about the offense putting up 41 points a game next year in the Big 10. It is not going to happen. Those kind of teams are a bad matchup for us. Just look at the USC game. Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma. Up-tempo Big 12 / Pac-12 kind of offense. We didn't stand a chance defensively. Whether it's Kansas State or USC, it's a bad matchup for us. We're not going to be able to keep pace offensively, and our defense just isn't good enough. Talked about in my preview how second-string running back Dylan Edwards couldn't gash us. Well, he gashed us all right for almost 200 yards. That last touchdown he had that put them ahead, he wasn't even touched. Kansas State, what was it? They had double digits, maybe 12, 13, 15 plays of 15 yards or more. Kirk Sherrocka and the offense are not off the hook here either, even though they got 400 yards. They could just we never as a program and as a team get it to the next level. Yeah, we'll get 400 plus yards, maybe close to 500 against Wagner. We had almost 300 yards, or we did have 300 yards in the first half last night. And we came away with 100 yards, or maybe less than 100 yards in the second half. Kind of saw this coming, even though we were up 27-17 at halftime, 34-17 in the early third quarter. Kind of felt uneasy. Because when you play these types of games, they're about momentum shifts. and it can change on a dime. The play calling sequence in the second half was off. We had one. I'm not talking about play calling at the time when Coach Shiano says, "Oh, if the play works, it's a good play. If it doesn't work, it's a bad play." I'm talking about how we're sequencing and how we're putting together particular series. We had one good call after, it was first and goal from the one. The tush push failed, and then we faked the tush push, run it into the end zone. Good call. But overall, our offensive sequencing, play calling, it's not just that it went too conservative. It just, you can be conservative, but still make plays and extend the markers. We went into this mode where we were running between the tackles on first down, putting the offense in second and third and long. And by that time, Kansas State had was stepping up and putting pressure on Nathan. They had 4 sacks. They weren't getting 8, 10, 12-yard sacks. But they were flushing Ethan to move up into the pocket, and he would lose 2, 3, 4 yards. They were getting pressure. So you stop them on first down, 0 yards, 1 yard, or 2 yards. Now it's second and third and long. And those plays in the second half, from the middle of the third quarter on, we weren't executing. Ethan's, he was 14 to 32 last night, threw for 230-something yards, which I felt we had to do in order to win. And in some respects, big play to Ian Strong. Ian, KJ Duff had good games. Daimir kind of quiet. I think he had 2 catches. Nonetheless, now it's, third and long, and we just seemed off. Ethan's delivery, you could tell when he was throwing the ball, there was something off about it. Not as fluid. The delivering of the ball was not as crisp, which is kind of weird because, in the snow in Michigan State, we played much better. The sun of Phoenix, not so much. So even when we were up 34-17, I was very uneasy. I felt that the finger in the dam was going to come out any second, and sure enough, it did. You knew after Ethan threw the interception to make it 34-29, I believe, that this was probably it, that was the thing that pushed the momentum wholly onto the other side on the K-State, but that's not why we lost. We had opportunities in this game. That just kind of fits the disjointed nature of the offense in the second half. If it wasn't for Christian Dremel and that punt return to the 15-yard line, 13-yard line, whatever it was, Kansas State might have run away with it in the second half. The only reason why we're still in it was because of Christian Dremel. Once again, this guy is making big plays. There was one of those sequences before the interception where we did try to run between the tackles on that delay RPO run. We got a yard or two. Second and third and long. Ethan is kind of flushed, but he makes a pass deep downfield. If he had another half a second, if the ball got there a half a second earlier, that's a deep completion inside Kansas State's 50-yard line. If we could have gotten a score, even a field goal at 37-17, in a game like this where there's an ebb and a flow and momentum and offenses are making plays, defense is optional, we could have hung on and developed more momentum and flow in our play calling and execution. But it didn't happen. The pass was kind of knocked down, and we had a shot at catching the ball, but it was just a half a second too late. I mean, we talk about baseball being a game of inches. football quite often is just the same. Nonetheless, in the next series, or Ethan throws that pick, we kind of felt the way the game was going. Kansas State, on the other hand, they adjusted well, and I know there was talk about, the technology not working and couldn't communicate to the players, but both teams had that same problem. And by the way, I'm tired of hearing, let's get to this, the injury bug and guys not playing. All teams have had to deal with it. We saw against USC, we've talked about this a bunch, of missing their entire secondary when we played them. Wisconsin missing the starting quarterback, running back, tackle, wide receiver. UCLA missing guys all over the place. Maybe we just don't have the depth. Maybe we don't have the schemes to be able to put second team, third team guys in the right positions. So, Eric Rogers and Nick Minosin, who are big contributors, didn't play yesterday, but Kansas State were missing their number one running back and their number two guy and their number three guy, Joe Jackson. Dylan Edwards, Joe Jackson cashed us. And I said, let's get into that. I said we'd need to limit Sunshine. Avery Johnson. Remember Sunshine from Remember the Titans. 15 to 30, 195 yards, three touchdowns. So he made enough big plays when didn't have a high completion percentage, but made big plays in the passing game when he had to. 3 touchdowns and interception by Longerbeam. We talked about you can't let Dylan Edwards gash us, and he certainly did. 18 rushes, 196 yards. 11 yards per carry, including 65-yard touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. Joe Jackson, no, not that Joe Jackson, 7 rushes for 50 yards, over 7 yards per carry. Chase Brown, wide receiver, had 3 carries for 42 yards. Avery Johnson, 11 rushes for 57 yards. So we failed on the first 2 things of managing Avery Johnson and not letting the second and third team running backs gash us. In their losses, Kansas State was turning the ball over, so get the ball, get turnovers, don't turn it over. Each team had an interception, so that was a non-factor there. Said Kirk Shiraka and Ethan had to be on their game, both calling the game and executing in the passing game. We did some good, mostly in the first half. Second half, not so much. There was room for improvement there. Antoine Raymond had to fill in, and not fill in, but get a Kyle Monangai kind of game. Now, if you would look at the stats, see 18 rushes, 113 yards, 3 touchdowns. And you'd say, hey, that's a really good job. I don't know if it was you would have, out of your lead backer, the team that wants to run the ball, control the clock, you probably would have needed more than 113 yards. We needed to have a Kyle 130, 40, 50, 60 kind of game. On the upside, Jay Sean took a step. Always talked about him being a change of pace guy, needs to get some more work. 7 carries, 33 yards, a touchdown, and a reception for 7 yards and a touchdown. And I think bowl games going forward, to touch on Jay Sean Benjamin's impact in yesterday's game, going forward, bowl games will mean less and less, big picture. With NIL, you have guys declaring for the NFL. Guys will be sitting out, making business decisions. Guys that are dinged up won't be playing. And guys will be transferring. So the bowl games, more than ever, won't mean anything. Historically, I loved bowl games. I loved watching good matchups. With the college football championship series will be the main focus, but the committee is going to have to make the right decisions on who to put in these games, because the first few games have not been good. It's not going to get down to where we are now, where the games should be competitive. So bowl games won't mean as much, and you'll have younger guys. It will be a showcase for second and third stringers and younger guys to showcase their talents. Last year it was Bo Mascow. This year it was Jay Sean. So you might say, well, that's a good thing, but if you truly want your program to get to next level, instead of being 7-6 yet again, I hate to say it, but it is what it is. We are who we are. This is probably our ceiling. Coach will probably be able to say next year, yeah, the program is improving. He's going to be unequivocal about that. We're getting higher ranked classes. We're getting better transfers in the portal. Guys are getting paid, coaches and players. But that's only on paper. That's abstractly. On the field, executing, winning is what changes a program. Be interested to see how Indiana winds up next year. Are they a one-year wonder? Or going forward, are they going to be a team to be reckoned with? Thank God they're not on the schedule, because, boy, they would be problematic for us the way they want to spread it out, run it, and throw it. So in this game, there are some things you can point to statistically. Hey, look at this. Again, it's a Big 12 game. I wouldn't take much out of it. Defensively, we were bad, but we needed to get to the quarterback. We needed to get to Sunshine. We had 2 sacks, one by Shaquan Loyal and half a sack each by Jabome and Keontae Hamilton. Longer beam, Flip played yesterday. Tyreme led the team with 5 tackles. Tyreme, missed time early in the game, came back. Him, Longer beam, and Flip Dixon had 5 tackles. Malcolm Reid kind of made his presence felt. Which kind of underperformed a little bit. Good to see him. He had 4 tackles rather. The time of possession, you could figure out statistically, there were things that would be kind of even. And time of possession, 31-29 in favor of Kansas State. They had 71 plays. We had 68 plays. Red zone, we were 5 for 5. Kansas State was 4 for 4. Third down, we were 7 for 14. They were 8 for 16. All really even. When you consider the final score, I guess that kind of makes sense. One of the things we do well with is not making big mistakes. In penalties, we had only 1 penalty. So you can only get so far, not making mistakes, doing just well enough offensively to stay in the game, and not making plays on defense. In closing, our program building is going well, especially from a marketing standpoint and a perception standpoint. The on-field results are not. I know Coach likes to say it's about culture. So when he looks at program building, we're building the culture. We have the kind of guys that we want. And we're getting guys that we want to represent the program the right way. But and he'll disagree with this, Coach Shannon will disagree vehemently, it's about scheme. I mean, how does Boise do well with no recruiting advantages? Arizona State. I mean, these teams have no recruiting advantages whatsoever. So, on paper, program building next year, we can be better. Have a higher rated class. We can have a new great DC. And our results on the field might be even worse. We'll have those 4 losses we talked about. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Iowa. Don't be shocked if Miami of Ohio give us a problem. So if we're 6-6 again, 5-7, no, I would not be shocked. In fact, I would say you can kind of expect it, barring some surprises. We get a defensive coordinator that totally turns things around. Remember, we're going to need a whole new defensive line. We're going to need another safety. We're going to need another corner. Linebackers, kind of up in the air, but we're going to need at least have some depth there. O-line depth. The O-line in the second half last night, not great. Nonetheless, unless we get, we have an Indiana kind of year where nobody sees this coming and we're able to execute, I think it's going to be more of the same. 7-6 in the Big Ten is kind of our ceiling, especially in the NIL game and the transfer portal game. Yes, we're starting to do better at the portal and use it to our advantage. You lose guys, okay, you go get some guys. It works both ways. But the rich are only getting richer. So that's it for 2024 in the Rutgers football season. Maybe I'll have a year-end review, recap, where we're going, yada, yada, yada in the future. But nonetheless, we have a basketball. People are going to be focused on basketball. That will be as disappointing. There's no way we're winning 12 or 13 games in the Big Ten to get to the tournament. But today, this, as Coach likes to say, this is the Columbia, or Coachiano, this is the Columbia week. We have Columbia in basketball. They're pretty good. I went through my preview with them. Don't be surprised if that's a really tight game or if we lose. I stated my reasons why. Nonetheless, everybody enjoy an extremely safe and happy New Year. Make 2025 a great New Year, and we'll see you the next time.